Welcome to All Clear Firefighter Health and Wellness. We are live over at Safer in Raleigh, North Carolina. Do you recognize this guy? This is Eric Stevenson. Hadn't had him around for quite a while. How you doing, Eric?
Doing well. It is good to see you guys again.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
be back here with you, brother.
Sad that we only see each other in person at conferences. That's
Only a couple times a year.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit yesterday, and you mentioned that you were at you were deployed to Texas. I know there's been a ton of stuff going on down there with flooding. Why don't you tell us about your experience? Because I thought it was something our listeners would appreciate.
I just came back a little over a week ago from a deployment down in Kerrville, Texas. And unfortunately, that is where the flooding situation was that went through a few weeks ago. Well, a little over a month ago now, 4th of July weekend. And I was requested through North Carolina LEAP, the Law Enforcement Assistance Program, that they had a request for peers to go to Texas to help with mental health needs of the first responders.
So were you working with just firefighters, or were you working with like law enforcement, EMS, things like that as well?
Whoever we could see in the first responder realm while we were in Texas is who we made contacts with.
Okay, so you said you were deployed. How long were you over there or down there?
It was a 10-day deployment.
Right.
Had 8 days on the ground working.
So being there, I know you worked a little bit during Hurricane Helene here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Was it a real similar vibe over there, or was it kind of different?
The closer you got to the river and, getting up towards Camp Mystic,
Right.
the damage looked pretty identical to what Western North Carolina did. One of the differentiating differences, I guess, Texas was just a strictly water event. North Carolina actually had a hurricane, so they had wind, mudslides, things like that. Terrain wasn't nearly as steep, but we were in the hill country of Texas.
Right.
So it was hilly, but the damage down around the river looked very similar to Western North Carolina. It was a deja vu moment for me.
You know,
when I saw it.
There's another podcaster, Chad Prather. He's actually out of Texas, and I know he talked a lot about, I don't know him personally, but I listened to his show from time to time, especially when it was dealing with the first responder response down there. And he was talking about how right at Camp Mystic, that was kind of like the epicenter, and there were a lot of kids down there that were impacted. Did you guys get to work with anybody outside of the first responder room? Did you get to talk to any of the...
So I visited Camp Mystic 4 times. They still had task force teams that were on the ground working. So we visited Camp Mystic 4 separate times, checking on them. And then we got to see some of the Camp Mystic people, some of their employees. That was rough.
It was rough.
Yeah.
So what would you say was the most common, I'm not going to say ailment, but the most common issue that you were facing with the first responders that you talked to? What seemed to be the biggest trigger for them?
We heard a lot of the same thing, that they felt like they wished they could have done more. Some of the sights and sounds that they heard were, I did almost 300 one-on-one peer contacts while I was down there.
That's a lot.
And I heard the same story just about every time. There was a lot of grief. Even though grief and post-traumatic stress symptoms kind of mimic,
right?
You could just tell that it was grief. There was a lot of heartache, and even myself while I was down there, I took some damage. We were absorbing all of that. Thank gosh we had a good team that was with us.
Right.
We had a clinician that was staying with us from North Carolina.
Right.
So we got to defuse and talk, make sure that we were going to be good for the next day of operation.
So that I know I've learned a lot from you about mental health.
Yeah.
over the last years that we've known each other. And I know that when you help somebody, you carry part of what they have with them away. How has it affected you personally?
Me personally, I just wanted to be able to take that pain away from them. And we can't do that, obviously. Being away from home that long, knowing we had a mission that we were trying to accomplish, I did get homesick while I was down there. That was rough. But really just wanted to take that pain, and I couldn't. And so grief for me as well, knowing that if you're in a situation, my heart is going to hurt for you. It's hard not to get personally attached.
Right.
But we have to make sure that we're not getting too personally attached to it. But that long of a mission, that many contacts that we had, it was just like a sponge, absorbing. Had to go back every night and wring that sponge out.
Right.
Make sure that I was good to go the next day. A lot of crying on the phone with my wife.
No doubt.
A lot of crying back at the house with our therapist and our other team members, making sure that we were good.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with crying. Very healthy, very therapeutic. And I tend to wear my feelings on my sleeve sometime, especially in situations like that.
Well, it takes a special person to do what you're doing. And like I said, when I heard you kind of talk about your Texas deployment yesterday when we were together, I figured it was something that would be beneficial to our audience to listen to. But so if you have any words of the wisdom, not necessarily about Texas, but about peer support, mental health, I'm starting to use the word mental fitness because that kind of helps you get ahead of the curve. What would you say first responders need to know? What is the most proactive thing they can do individually to help them?
Self-care.
Okay.
Build as much resilience into your self-care program. Do not be afraid to talk. It doesn't make a difference who you're talking to.
Right.
You can talk to this table for all I care. Just be able to get that stuff out. But make sure that you have a good self-care routine. Make sure you're building resilience. Make sure you have a good network of people that you can feel comfortable talking with.
Right.
For example, when I came home on a Wednesday. By 4:00 Thursday afternoon, I was in my therapist's office. I knew that's what I needed to do.
You had to work it out.
Yeah. And within my first 8 days home, I had 2 therapy appointments. Feeling good, feeling great.
That's awesome.
But Texas was probably one of the hardest things I've done.
Okay.
Even though I witnessed it here in our own state, hearing it as many times as we did and seeing what we saw down there, it was one of the hardest things mentally for me. But by far the most rewarding thing I've ever done. I came home with a heart full of gratitude.
Cool.
It was amazing.
One of the things that I've learned and that we teach in our new course is talking about, when we have adversity, let it shape you, but don't let it define you.
Right.
You don't want your career defined by that. And I know that one of the things that I've taken away, I've heard you talk about Helene, I've heard you talk about what's happened in Texas. It's not a North Carolina thing. It's not a Texas thing. Mental fitness is something that we all deal with, regardless of if we ride the truck, if we're an investigator, if we're, medical, it doesn't matter. We all face it. So I appreciate you taking time to talk to us today.
Yeah, brother.
But if people want to learn about the First Responder Peer Support Network, how can they get a hold of you? How can they learn about you? How can they find you other than going to the links on our website?
We have a social media, Facebook page. So First Responders Peer Support Network on Facebook. Hit us up on the website. frpsn.org is the website. 24-hour assistance line for the first responder community, 833-377-7648. dedicated line, 24 hours a day. You're going to speak to myself or 3 other team members guaranteed. We're proud of that line.
Yep.
We've had it for 5 years now. We've never missed a call coming in.
And I do have to say, Eric is the most fun one to talk to. But I appreciate you taking time, brother, to be with us.
Thanks for having me, man.
And as we always say on All Clear, light your fire within.